Video games are a clever sort of art. They directly involve their audience in a way that can't really be matched by other forms of media, and by doing this, they drag the player into the game itself. So just like when a plot revelation comes up in a good book or film, some moments in video games have the power to leave us reeling at the surprise. They can often be built up throughout the game or go completely against what the gamer has come to expect from either the game series or gaming in general. So I'm here looking at what I consider to be the top 15 most shocking moments in video games. As you may know by now, these lists come with a few rules in place. I'm only choosing moments from games I've played, so if there's a moment you like that isn't on here, the likelihood is that I haven't actually played it. Also, I'm only going to choose one moment per video game series, in order to keep the list as diverse as possible. And as you would probably expect with a video about shocking moments in video games, spoilers are absolutely everywhere. So with that out the way, let's go. Throughout the entirety of the Jak trilogy, the player is told about these mystical beings called the Precursors. Think of them as these almighty overlords that created the world and possess unspeakable power that could probably screw you all over like hell if they wanted to. Throughout most of the trilogy, we know that they created the world, but that's just about it. You hear very little about them in Jak and Daxter the Precursor Legacy and Jak 2, but it's in Jak 3 that everything comes together. Skipping over most of Jak 3's plot, Jak follows Count Dickweed.
It's Vega!
Oh, who gives a shit? Anyway, Jak, Daxter and Vega head towards the planet's core and discover the Precursors. It's the whole booming voice and poetic speech thing, the sort of thing you'd expect from the creators of, well, sort of everything. So eventually, the Precursors are finally revealed, before Jak and Daxter, but then, well, Vega happens. He points his gun about a bit and takes Jak's honour of becoming a Precursor, at gunpoint. So Vega's gonna become a god. Wow, that's really shocking, yeah. But then...
We are unhappy with your performance. If you had been a true hero, you would have stopped Errol by now.
Oh my god.
Yes, well, now we are even more angry.
God damn it, the Precursors are Otzels, that, like, fluffy thing that Daxter turned into at the beginning of the first game. The setup is fantastic. The Precursors are almost the exact opposite of what they seem to be. Daxter's been one since the first game, and hey, Count Vega gets turned into an Otzel, having previously agreed to become a mighty Precursor. And holy balls, it's hilarious.
These creatures are the great Precursors? And I wanted to evolve into the... No!
A little drafty, isn't it?
No More Heroes is full of moments that screw with your mind and shake up what you'd expect to happen, but right before the rank 1 match in the first game, the game throws a dramatic curveball. After the previous fight with Bad Girl, where Travis Touchdown is congratulated by Sylvia Crystal's disposal men, but not Sylvia herself, Travis calls up the United Assassins Association to see what's up. The response on the other line is unexpected. Travis is greeted by Sylvia's mother, who informs him that the United Assassins Association, Sylvia Crystal, and indeed the structure of the whole damn game is a fake. There's no UAA, and Sylvia Crystal is in fact a professional con artist that took advantage of a select group of assassins and Travis so that she could just get some money off them. This is a massive slap to the face, as the game itself seems to have such a sound formula. You'd spend time in the overworld doing jobs to pay for the ranked fight, then fight your way through the level and take on the assassin at the end of it. This is repeated 9 times up to this point in the game, and it just seems like a hard and fast rule that can't be broken. But the game tells you, pretty much, that this is all fake. Back in 1985, the same year that Super Mario Bros. Came out, Capcom released Ghosts and Goblins, and it's an impressive game. I never liked the jumping physics though, it felt like, oh my god, where are we going? But anyway, like most games of the time, it's not the easiest in the world. Not exactly Ninja Gaiden, but still pretty difficult and virtually ball-busting by today's standards. With Ninja Gaiden, you finish the game and you immediately feel this immense feeling of satisfaction before you run outside and tell the whole world that you just beat Ninja Gaiden. With Ghosts and Goblins though, it's a little bit different. So you're at the final boss, and your fingers are more like blooded stumps. You have no friends, you're failing all your classes at school, and you smell really rank. But it's all worth it now you've beaten the final boss. Oh yeah, the final boss was an illusion, and in order to face the true final boss, you have to replay the whole entire fucking game on a higher difficulty. It's at this point that you take a hammer to the cartridge and cry all night. The world of Portal is a lonely one. Each test subject goes through a series of challenges to analyse their abilities and the works of Aperture Science. But it's not so bad, I guess. At least you've got an artificially intelligent computer system to keep you company. GLaDOS acts as a guide for the player during the game, and let's face it, she makes some half-decent company too. But as the game progresses, her words become increasingly more malicious, and it soon emerges that things aren't quite what they seem. Though I do have to hand it to GLaDOS, she does go about it in quite a subtle way. Maybe she's just a disgruntled employee at work and wants out on the whole thing. Yeah, maybe that's it.
Congratulations, the test is now over. All Aperture technologies remain safely operational up to 4,000 degrees Kelvin. Rest assured that there is absolutely no chance of a dangerous equipment malfunction prior to your victory incandescence. Thank you for participating in this Aperture Science computer-aided enrichment activity. Goodbye.
Yeah, I don't know if you've realised yet, but GLaDOS is a gigantic fucking nutcase. It throws tons of thoughts into your head about the fate of other test subjects and what Aperture Science actually is. I think it's how the situation is played out subtly and quietly, right up until the point where GLaDOS slides you right into an incinerator and tries to kill you. Mind you though, the idea of a computer going insane and killing the people that are supposed to help and serve isn't exactly new, but we'll get to that a bit later. Silent Hill screws with you in so many different ways. We all know about Pyramid Head and, well, this. But why are they like this? The game is focused on James Sunderland and how he came to the town of Silent Hill after receiving a letter from his deceased wife, Mary. Here he encounters Maria, who looks quite a lot like Mary, and well, she dies a lot in this game. Which doesn't really make sense when you think about it, because when you're dead, you're supposed to kind of stay dead. But no, Maria dies one scene, and then in the next, she returns and shows complete ignorance to her death just a while ago. So it's safe to say that something's wrong here, though in a game with these things, that's not exactly the surprise of the century. What is a surprise is what comes next. When James returns to the hotel where he and Mary spend their holiday, he discovers a videotape. It's not pretty. Mary didn't die from a disease like you're told at the start of the game. She was killed by James. In fact, the whole game is about the torment that James is suffering, and how he's struggling to come to terms with his dark past. He lives in denial of what he's done, hence why the reveal comes as a shock to the player, but as a mere reminder to James himself. But what about the Pyramid Heads? Well, near the end of the game, Maria is killed yet again by a pair of Pyramid Heads. It's here that we realise the true purpose of them.
I was weak. That's why I needed you. Needed someone to punish me for my sins. But that's all over now.
Throughout the whole of Shadow of the Colossus, there were hints that all was not well. Every time you killed a Colossi, Wanda would get, assaulted by the remnants of the Colossi. And well, the whole process of killing a Colossi was a bit messy, with all the pain and having to absorb evil stuff, so... But hey, it's supposed to show just how determined Wanda is to resurrect his girlfriend, and fair enough, love is a powerful emotion. However, come the end of the game, and simply put, Wanda doesn't get his reward. The deal he made at the beginning of the game with Dorman is torn up, as Wanda's girlfriend isn't brought back from the dead, and Wanda is killed by Lord Emon and his men, because he's been possessed by the dead. Hang on, what? For putting his trust in Dorman, Wanda gets nothing. He loses his girlfriend forever, and his antics cause an evil spirit to possess his body and wreak havoc. But it only gets worse when Lord Emon banishes the Wanda-Dorman combo into a big pool of light. You actually get control of Wanda here as you desperately try to escape your fate. Needless to say, you can't get away. The final act of Shadow of the Colossus is both a brilliant one and a sad one too. Wanda is forced to face the consequences of his action and take responsibility for what he's done. The thing is though, the game themselves is adjusted by most other video games to get a reward for their deeds, and to get this is, well, a big shock. Heavy Rain is a beautifully crafted game. It's a brilliantly accurate psychological thriller that thrusts dilemmas into the player's lap and says, right, what are you going to do about that? The game centres around Ethan Mars and how he is coping with first the fact that he was in a 6-month coma after he tried to save his son from being killed in a car crash, but kind of failed, and second, the fact that his other son Sean has gone missing and is presumed to be linked with the killings of the origami killer. It's safe to say that he's not leading the happiest of lives. His pursuit of Sean leads him to a trashed building, and after playing with some lizards, he finds a key and opens up a little room. Here he finds a pre-recorded message on what I guess is some sort of iPad, telling him to cut off his own finger to get more information on Sean's whereabouts. Yeah, you heard that right. This scene is played out perfectly. Throughout the 5 minutes, Ethan is faced with loads of thoughts and questions about what he has to do, and it's surprisingly well structured for a man who's just been told he has to slice off his finger. There are loads of options with what you can do, and even what you use to cut off your finger, but the end result is the same. The shock of this comes from 2 areas. There's the more obvious, holy shit, this guy's just cut off his own finger, which is the more explicit shock to the system, but the kicker, and the reason why I decided to choose it for this list, is the fact that Ethan will stop at quite literally nothing to save his son. Throughout the game, Ethan Mars will subject himself to physical pain, electrocution, cutting off his own finger, killing a man, and drinking poison in order to save his son. This revelation acts as the first true sign that this man is on one hell of a mission. He is my vote for Dad of the Year. GLaDOS is pretty awesome now I come to think about it. She's kind of that strange, weird, psychotic friend you've always wanted, the kind that would turn down a handshake for a quick chew on your finger. She's quite friendly for most of the game, and hell, she's basically your partner for most of Portal 2. System Shock 2 doesn't follow this. The first game takes place on a research and mining space station called Citadel, and the company that commissioned it developed an AI to help out with stuff. But after it's hacked, it gradually starts becoming rogue and, well, it starts killing people. The protagonist, though, manages to stop it by launching it out the window and having it crash land on a nearby planet. So obviously, it's prime sequel material. In the second game, the AI is brought to a new starship and starts to enlist humans to help it with destroying stuff. The playable character in this game is actually a soldier that the AI has modified to serve as an avatar. You go through the game not really knowing what your role in the game is. You're helped out by this Dr. Polito at the start of the game, but you still don't know much. But then you find Dr. Polito dead, having committed suicide when she found out what the AI had done and planned to do. The AI. Showdown.
The Polito form is dead, insect. Are you afraid? What is it you fear?
The end of your trivial existence.
When the history of my glory is written, your species shall only be a magnificence. Showdown.
Yep. Finding a shocking moment in the Metal Gear series is hard, because it's a series that almost expects shocking revelations. Raiden returning as a badass in MGS4? Yeah, that kinda makes sense. Eva and Revolver Ocelot acting as double and triple agents respectively in MGS3? Yeah, that's to be expected, yeah. What about Master Miller turning out to be Liquid Snake? Yeah, I could've... Hang on, what? Back in the day of the original Metal Gear Solid, and when Kojima was still keeping his powder dry, the player is introduced to Master Miller. He had affiliations with Big Boss and had retired to Alaska to live in solitude. He acts as Snake's Alaskan survival guru and helps him throughout the mission. Oh, and he loves his sunglasses. But things start to go wrong. Snake activates a Metal Gear Rex from Miller's advice, and well, that's kind of a bad thing. As it turns out, Master Miller has been dead since 3 days prior to the start of the mission, and instead, the man who's been giving advice to Snake, the man who's managed to trick Roy Campbell, he's Liquid Snake, you know, the leader of Foxhound and Snake's genetic twin. This is another revelation that takes what the player took as hardened fact and breaks it down. Liquid Snake plays Snake's entire support team for suckers, and when the time came for him to reveal himself, he does so perfectly, and in some style too.
Snake, did you like my sunglasses?
Oh man, this game's amazing! Who needs a fat plumber who's addicted to shrooms, or an elf with a creepy man in a cave when you have an awesome alien-destroying bounty hunter? Look at how I can decimate everything in front of me, and look at this awesome jumping! Yeah, suck it, bitch! Yeah, come on, I'm ripping this place apart, come at me, mother brain! Yeah, you got nothing! Sweet, that game was incredible. My adrenaline is just through the roof and out in... Oh, it's amazing. Can't wait to see where they take this series. Well, that was unexpected. Nintendo played waves of gamers for fools with the original Metroid. Many gamers, as you'd expect because it was kind of the norm really, expected Samus to be a man. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. You go through the game tearing at Zebus and bosses like Kraid and Ridley, and it all feels very manly. But no, if you manage to beat the game in less than 5 hours, it's revealed that Samus is in fact a woman. So well played, Nintendo. You subtly introduced one of the first female protagonists in video game history, and tried to balance the market out a little bit. By the way, do you know what happens if you manage to finish the game in less than 1 hour? Bikini! If I were to explain the whole story of Chrono Trigger and just what happens, this video will be even longer than it already is, so I'll keep it short. So there's this bad guy called Lavos, and you confront him in the Ocean Palace in the Kingdom of Zeal. And when I say confront, I actually mean are absolutely fucked over by, as he kicks your ass in one fell swoop. So then the other bad guy, or at least for most of the game, Magus, turns up and starts fighting Lavos, but even so, he doesn't stand a chance either. But then Chrono stands up. In order to save his friends, he sacrifices himself. The SNES version made this seem pretty emotional, but the DS remake is just heart-wrenching, where you see Chrono's facial expressions change from determination to shock, and then to anguish. Because after all, the main character did just die. The only reason that this isn't higher is because it doesn't quite have the impact that a main character death should have. Granted, the immediate moments after it's happened are very mellow, but later down the line, Chrono's body during the scene is replaced by an identical model by using something called a Chrono Trigger.
He said it!
So in the end, Chrono doesn't actually die. Or, well, he does, but he doesn't later. You know what I mean? Games are a delicate balance. In a series, you'll often have a selection of things that can't be broken. For example, Link is never allowed to talk in the Zelda series. It kinda makes sense, really. You can play around with a few things, but some things shouldn't be fucked about with. So with that said, let's move to a recent game, Batman Arkham City. In the Batman universe, there's a few hard and fast rules. Batman is a rich guy that uses his money to make Gotham City a safer place, and the Joker is seen as Batman's arch enemy and has been since the very first comics back in the 40s. They are the opposite sides of the same coin in a way. You can't really have one without the other. Batman Arkham City, though, mixes this up a bit. You may remember from the end of Arkham Asylum that the Joker becomes this thing, and we are treated to one of the worst final bosses in video game history. In order to do this, the Joker had to inject himself with the Titan formula, which has actually poisoned his blood and is slowly killing him. Typically, the Joker captures Batman and performs a blood transfusion, giving Batman the same disease. Fast forward to the end, and Batman has cured himself, but has an additional antidote on him, with the Joker on the brink of death. There's a genuine lull where Batman debates curing his longtime foe, someone he has never let die before, because that's just how this whole Batman thing works. But in the end, the Joker makes the decision for him, as he attacks Batman, causing the vial to smash. But that's okay, the Joker will always find a way to get around this. He's a jammy bad guy, he can't just die. He does, and not in a spectacular way. The Joker just dies. It's a huge moment. It's like Bowser or Ganon permanently dying. It's something that you almost can't adjust to. The Joker is Batman's arch enemy, the main reason why Batman is Batman, and to take him out of the equation altogether is a hammer blow to everything you understand about the series. I mean, where do you go from here? The spiritual successor to System Shock, Bioshock is another one of those artsy symbolic games. One of those games that will scare the shit out of you one minute,
sometimes I pitied a little,
and then make you cry the next. Yep, it's a game that toys with your emotions, and has fun while doing so. And if you know anything about this game, you know what moment I've picked, so I'll just get on with it. This moment is focused on Jack, the main character, and Atlas, a revolutionary who guides Jack throughout the game as soon as Jack arrives in Rapture. He's also Irish, and I like Irish people, they got a funny accent. So basically Atlas helps Jack survive in Rapture by giving him tasks to carry out. And the one that really sets up this moment is when Atlas asks Jack to kill Andrew Ryan, who's the big bad guy and the founder of Rapture. However, it's here that the game is turned inside out.
Stop, would you kindly? Would you kindly? Powerful phrase. Familiar phrase. Sit, would you kindly? Stand, would you kindly? Run. Stop. Turn. A man chooses. A slave obeys.
Atlas has been controlling Jack since the very start with one phrase, would you kindly? Not a command, but a question, giving the full sense of free will, and giving both Jack and the player the illusion that they had a choice. It's such a subtle plan that when the whole situation is revealed, it's a massive sense of disbelief more than anything else. And when the game plays it back for you, it makes so much sense.
Would you kindly? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find it? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly head to Ryan's office and kill the son of a bitch?
Yeah, no, not really. If you find Eris's death scene shocking, good for you, but it certainly isn't shocking to me in any way. It's probably the fact that by the time I got round to playing Final Fantasy VII, I had known about it for quite a while, or the fact that Eris meant squat to me. Hey, there's Tifa Lockhart if you want something to look at.
Boobies.
At any rate, the better game for shocking moments is Final Fantasy VI. Lots of crazy stuff happens in this game, and quite a lot of it is as a result of Kefka Palazzo, one of the most screwed up villains in video games. He's a nasty piece of work and poisons and even kills a whole load of people on his way to the top. Being a psychotic crazy guy, once he does reach the top, he decides to set out to destroy the world. Which is fair enough really, most bad guys want to destroy the world or at least take over it. The difference here is the eventual outcome. Most bad guys are thwarted in their attempts as they are embarrassed by the badassery of the protagonist. In this case though, Kefka succeeds. He destroys the world. He basically gains power from some magic statues, he kills his pal Gustave, and then moves the statues out of their proper alignment, causing the world to collapse in on itself. It's a case of, did he really just do that? It screws everything up. Most of the human population rather inevitably die, as does most of the plant life. The main characters are all separated from each other, the most dramatic of which is Celes, who becomes distressed at being separated from her lover Locke and attempts suicide. Suicide! You don't see that much in video games. You have the option to gather up the group of the main characters through a series of side quests, but it's a bit of a slog to get characters like Locke, for example. The initial impact of this sequence of events resonates when you realise what Kefka destroying the world has actually done. It, obviously, fucks up the world, but it also screws up the main characters and separates them, leading to some very dramatic scenes. And there's also the fact that it comes the hell out of nowhere. Not only does Kefka straight up kill his accomplice Gustave, but he decides to end the day off with the casual destruction of the world. That's one nasty bastard right there. Number 1 is shocking for many reasons. It's in a game series where you perhaps wouldn't expect something like this to occur, but even if you're a fan of the series, it still leaves you reeling. The series I'm talking about? Call of Duty. If there's one thing that really irks me, it's the negative comments aimed at Call of Duty. People criticise the series for being stupid and lacking innovation, and while the latter may be somewhat true for some of the more recent games, there are still way more positives than negatives. When the story's shit, who cares? But when it's great like in Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, it's amazing. There are so many great missions in this game, like Crew Expendable and Game Over, that actually give personalities to your crew, and make them mean something to you. However, the greatest mission, and the number 1 spot on this list, comes at the end of the first act. To summarise what's happening, you've chased the bad guy called Al-Assad back to his capital city with the idea of winning the war by capturing him here. You managed to rescue a squad under fire before— oh damn it, we've got to go back. You stop to rescue the helicopter pilot and start escaping, but then— carnage.
All U.S. forces be advised. We have a confirmed nuclear threat in the city. Nest teams are on site and attempting to disarm. I repeat,
Wow. It's a shocking moment on so many different levels. Firstly, this is what a nuke does. Nukes are handed out so carelessly in modern culture that they seem to lose all meaning. But at the end of the day, they are devastatingly powerful weapons of mass destruction that can flatter an entire city. Up the power a bit and you can destroy an entire country. So to see a nuclear bomb actually cause this much damage and destruction is a big reality check. Second, like the final act of Shadow of the Colossus, there's no sense of reward. Considering you are going to this city to capture Al-Assad and end the war, you've instead been killed along with 30,000 US troops, pretty much the opposite end of the scale. Not like you can do anything about it, you will fail the mission every time you play through the game, it's scripted. Also, this incident has huge ramifications on the rest of the Modern Warfare trilogy. General Shepard lost all those troops under his command, giving him a negative view of the world and international politics. And from there, he started the Russo-American War, and becomes the main antagonist of Modern Warfare 2. In Modern Warfare 3, we see in a flashback scene that the bomb was detonated by longtime bad guy and general douchebag Vladimir Makarov, and dramatically changed the mindset of Yuri, the main playable character in the game. All of this is without looking at the aftermath scene. Sergeant Paul Jackson doesn't die immediately from the helicopter crash, and instead spends the last few seconds of his life staggering around the crash site before succumbing to his injuries and dying. This chilling scene doesn't last long, but it leaves a lasting impact because you did, after all, just play the last half a minute of someone's life. Everything about this event just sends shockwaves through the player. It's a human disaster with huge, giant repercussions within the series. And it just goes to show that even a franchise like Call of Duty, with its incessant supply of games and 12-year-old screaming fans, can leave a powerful blow on the player. This has been RabbidLuigi, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare is easily in my top 10 video games. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.
5 years ago, I lost 30,000 men in the blink of an eye. And the world just fucking watched.
This wasn't war. It was madness.
a sec. I'm trying to find the right words. Fuck you. Fuck you and fuck you! It's good. Let's go. One can only dream.